Fine.
Yeah,
Is it okay with you if I start the recording?
sounds good. Yeah, thank
Uh,
you for the links from last time. The first one was also very interesting. Uh, like the old style like printers. I saw that image from Colombia. Yeah. But yeah, let me jump straight into the practice and how it's been this week. Um,
okay.
so this week was kind of busy. Once again, reminded that being in it for the money causes a fair share of dukkha. So what's happening is we have um, basically like a release for a software, and pretty much I've been working from like 8 to 7, um, Monday to Tuesday to Friday. Um, so the formal practice has been a little shaky. So I had the formal practice on Monday to Monday to Thursday, missed it on Friday, and today is looking kind of tight too, given that it's already 12:30. But other than that, the other highlight was finally found like ran into some like I guess like homeless people again today, because today I went to travel upstate to hike with several of my friends, and so when I went to Grand Central Station, I ran into four homeless people, and I gave two of them $1. So the first one was a girl who was sitting on the sidewalk of like 44th Street or something. She had like a big card that said like lost everything uh, but my smile and hope or something. And I gave her $1, and she like beamed and smiled and said, "Oh, thank you. Have a great day." So I was like, "Oh, have a great day." Then the other one was a man um, in a wheelchair, like an older, like must have been like an Italian looking or a Hispanic looking man in a wheelchair, and he had like a cardboard thing propped up on the back of his wheelchair that was like, "I have no money for family or friends. I need help for family or friends." I gave him $1. So he was like, "Oh, thank you." Then the other two people who I didn't give $1 to when I was coming back was, I think there was it was just like a guy in the subway like just like shaking his like cup, and then another one who was actually in the Metro North. I think it was either Metro North or no, there was one in the subway who kept shaking his cup, so I just like passed him, and there was another one who was on the sidewalk, that was just also just like sitting there saying, "Oh, can you please spare a quarter? Can you please spare a quarter?" So what I've noticed is I'm getting slightly more comfortable now, so I tend to give it to like homeless women or like homeless like old guys. But one kind of homeless person that I haven't given anything to is like a homeless black guy. So that's what I've noticed. That's true. Um, I think I'm like maybe like kind of biased a little bit. I think that's one thing I need to work on next. Because it seems to me I seem to think that they're more terrifying, which is the next thing I have to work on. But the feeling's nice though. The
Yes.
feeling's stronger. When I give that $1, right, like the feeling of like some kind of relaxation in the center of my chest here, something that radiates outward, it's stronger. It lasts a little longer. So
Uh,
I'm convinced that this kind of act is actually good in some way or another. Uh, in some way it makes me like relax. Yeah.
mm. Well, that's actually very good that you're reporting that you're noticing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in fact, this is actually the progress that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be done
Mm-hmm.
by every student, and it's remarkable this technique or
Mm-hmm.
tool of intentional generosity,
Mm-hmm.
how much it makes, or let us say, it presents us
Mm-hmm.
to look inside instead of following our confirmation biases. We begin to see our confirmation
Yeah.
bias, which is what you're talking about there as you're seeing. Now, here's something that's quite interesting, and that is that both you and that black man are oppressed minorities in New York City.
Yeah.
And in that regard, you have more in common with him than you have with your boss.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah, so work is the other topic that we'll talk about later. I have some more thoughts, but yeah, we can do the generosity thing first. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes. In fact, um, we actually have an obligation
Mm-hmm.
to break down those territorial boundaries that
Mm-hmm.
we have
Mm-hmm.
of seeing some people as other, that not like me, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We begin to see everybody as
Mm-hmm.
let us everybody, including this one, is nothing but a walking pile of reptile
Mm-hmm.
that is equipped with a human brain that is not put to work.
I see.
Every one of us is a reptile, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if two humans are looking at one another, they don't see reptile. What they see is another human being, but they're different than me. And because they're different, they must be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we were much more dangerous with each other when we were reptiles, actually.
Mm. I see. I see. Yeah.
So that fear is
Mm-hmm.
still there,
Yes, I can
but
feel it.
it's instinctual.
Mm-hmm. Especially
And
like,
not,
yeah.
yeah,
No, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, no, 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 go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm.
Not only is it instinctual, but that it is not only instinctual for each individual child as he's born and is raised,
Mm-hmm.
but it also is instinctual in our culture and in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it's instinctual right down to the family level of society. And one of the ways that's very interesting is that 3-year-olds can play with each other
Mm-hmm.
without reference to race, blacks and whites and everything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's only later,
Mm-hmm.
and that it begins to show up at about, say, age 7. By 10, it's easy to see. By 17, you have to separate them. And by
Mm-hmm.
30, they are separated.
I see. Yeah, definitely. I can see it how like I mean my parents and my family like they like definitely more racist against like black people. They keep saying that like black people like are dangerous because of all the robbings and the stuff in Harlem. So they keep saying that like like black people are going to beat you up and things like when I was younger, and that like you should like be careful around. So even now, right, in the city, I can sense like the body tensing up when like some black like not
Hmm.
all black people, but like you know, like black kids or something. Yeah, that's fine. But like if I see like some like buffer black guys that look kind of stern, then you can feel like I can feel the tension coming like in the body. You kind of want to distance yourself away. I mean, that's what I've seen. Yeah, like when I was walking around today. Hmm.
Uh-huh. All right. So that's the kind of stuff that you need to be alert to,
Hmm.
simply for no other reason than the fact that you're giving yourself unnecessary dukkha in that moment.
Hmm.
You're seeing danger where, in fact, the facts are no danger at all.
Hmm.
That's the reptilian brain, or that's the instinctual way that we operate,
Hmm.
is automatically, because danger sometimes happens automatically. He who is fastest either survives or eats, depending upon which
Hmm.
side of the game they're playing. All
Hmm.
right. And so speed is of its essence in the reptilian world.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in fact, being able to see what's really going on
Hmm.
takes time and processing.
Hmm.
And so you could go so far as to see that in fact humans think on two levels, and one is
Hmm.
slower and the other one is faster,
Hmm.
and that the slower one has the opportunity of
Hmm.
being the better one if it's properly trained to
Hmm.
see what's going on.
Hmm. Hmm.
But normally what happens is that the reptilian part of the brain is so fast that the lazy frontal cortex, the human part of the brain, says okay and doesn't do the inspection.
Hmm.
So that basically what it's all about. If you look at Anapanasati from the perspective of the 7 factors of enlightenment, that sati, or being able to remember something, when it becomes unremitting over and over again, so that it will come at that point of time when you need it. All right. And then the second factor of enlightenment is the investigation. That's the part that we're talking about. That's what wisdom arises. We investigate the situation. In that case, you recognize that these feelings are not based in reality. That black man does not have a knife. He is not running in this direction. If that were true, if the facts were there, then there would be really good reasons to be afraid.
Yeah, right.
But in fact, he hasn't even noticed you. And so that's another fact. If he hasn't even started to pay attention to you, then that even lessens the possibility. And so by looking, so here's a sequence of events that you've been practicing meditation, and now you're out on the street and you practice mindfulness on a regular basis. And now just when you need it most, you become mindful. You say, wait a minute, feel all of this tension that instantly arrived because of the reptilian brain. Let me investigate. Let me take a deep breath and recognize that, wait a minute, things are safe right now. Okay, and so you do that several times, and by the third or the fourth time this happens, when you see that black guy, you'll be taking a deep breath before the suffering and the anxiety and the false positive fears arise. That you can master this. All right, and this is the way that we master it, is recognizing that the instincts, the territorial instinct, or the instinct of us versus them, because they're dangerous and only my family is secure.
I see.
All right. So, and we recognize, oh no, I'm a lion. I'm a Buddha. Ain't no bothering me. We take on our power. We take on the strength. We take on the firm commitment that it doesn't matter how many black men there are within sight. I am not afraid.
I see.
Why? Because they're not doing anything dangerous.
Gotcha.
If I start acting afraid, you may in fact get somebody's attention, and then they will pay attention to you, and now you do have something to be afraid about.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
In that regard, we create our reality down to the point that when we become fearful, we create that which we fear. All right. Now, all animals that have passed a predator, including humans, in fact, humans got to the point that we predatored predators. And so we're the super predator, but all. So let's look at a dog, for instance. When a dog and he's doing his territorial duty, he's bound, he's guarding his territory, but he also knows that his alpha male is a human being, his owner, the caretaker. And so while they're guarding the territory, they do take cues from the owner, depending upon their level of commitment. So now a stranger comes. And the dog starts barking. All right. If the person is afraid, the more they'll bark. If the person is not afraid, the dog will in fact possibly not even bark. They won't even pay attention, or they'll go up friendly. And it's the fear factor. Why? Because the dog knows if this person is afraid, if I bark a little bit of him, then he's a foreigner, he's an outsider, he should be afraid. Attack. If the person comes, no fear, the dog will recognize, oh, no fear, he must be a friend.
Gotcha.
So and all of that happened at a very deep, basic instinctual level, that the dog is doing his territory defense, and he's looking to see. And so if you exhibit fear, then they will automatically, at an instinctual level, just like the dog does. The dog does not think this through. Okay, this is instinct. And so if you show or express fear, it will be attacked. That's not the human evolution. That is kind of the sum total of all evolution. But humans should be able to see their way out of that. But we can't. The human
Mm-hmm.
being is still stuck at
Mm-hmm.
that instinctual level
I
of
see.
becoming afraid of things that are not afraid, not fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And then because they are afraid, they prove that they're afraid. The other people around say, why are you afraid? You must not belong here, or you've done something wrong, or blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. And then their fear comes up, and now the problem is created when there, in fact, was no problem at all, except that someone was acting unwisely.
I see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, so this is something for me to work on. So last week we talked, right? We want, the thing was to look at, like the end, like the cessation of dukkha. Um, so I guess like there are certain, I mean, there's definitely moments when dukkha is not there, right? The brief moments when you take a breath or you yank yourself out of the thoughts, or like when you said when you sit down on like a really nice chair, or when the hot water hits you in the shower, those are moments where there is no dukkha, right?
No dukkha, exactly.
There's just a glass of cold water.
Relief, exactly. All right. In that moment of non dukkha is actually a pleasurable release or relief.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a hot shower, then that's a really excellent place. I'm glad that you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that there will come points or moments and times that everyone has that relief. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa actually calls it little nibbanas.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not talking about it in the sense that they were false nibbanas. Oh no, this is the release. That
Oh.
in fact you need to start looking for how you can create being
Mm-hmm.
in that state of complete
I see. But it's also
all
pretty
right.
productive.
So go take a, if you can notice that by going and taking hot shower, then go take hot showers often,
Uh-huh.
and let yourself keep experiencing that real release, that
Mm-hmm.
loss of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
that state of mind when we get to when everything is just fine. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you very much. That everything is just fine right now.
Mm-hmm. So what about things like sleeping, right? Because technically there's, I mean, if like we said, like if we train for like that light mind, right? You're not planning, you're not, doing things, right? Like, but is that technically like release because there's no really like you're not really conscious through it, right? Does that count as like the cessation of dukkha, like right there?
All right, let us say yes, that
Mm-hmm.
when someone is completely and fully asleep, the
Mm-hmm.
restorative deep sleep, where the
Mm-hmm.
mind actually does, as
Mm-hmm.
well as the body, so that the mind needs repair as
Mm-hmm.
well as the body,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a restorative deep process. We don't need that much of it, but somehow in our society, we've got regulated around 8 hours.
Right.
And really, is what happens is that in that 8 hour period, people will go from no sleep at all or partial
Mm-hmm.
wakeness
Mm-hmm.
into a dream state that
Mm-hmm.
is called REM. And in that state, the mind is active, it is busy, very little consciousness is going on, but a whole lot of perception is happening, a lot of
Right.
spinning, a lot of turning,
Smoking. Yeah.
and that in that fact, the mind is not at rest. It's not in a state of restoration. It's a state of problem solving.
Mm. I see.
Okay, and so we need to go beyond or deeper than that level of sleep down to the restorative part,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the point in time when it is necessary for us to wake up, we don't move into a dreamlike state. We
Mm-hmm.
can go right out of it. And so the real trick about sleep is can you get into it quickly, go very deeply, do what you need to do down there, which is a whole lot of really nothing, and then wake up at the right time, fully refreshed, fully awake, and don't spend much or any time at all in dreaming. Why? Because dreaming is just the smoldering by day that
Mm-hmm.
we did burning, or excuse me, it's a Buddha calls it smoldering by night. Burning by day and smoldering by night is the exact expression.
Right. Because
All right.
it's exhausting. Sometimes if you wake from like the dream state, it's actually you feel tired actually. Mm-hmm.
Good to notice that. So that this is why anapanasati is really well practiced if it's done while we're let us say doing the rituals
Uh-huh.
of preparing for sleep.
I see.
Now, normally one of the rituals for preparing to sleep is all the physical stuff that you do,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be the same. All
Mm-hmm.
right. One of them, in fact, would be if there was an improvement or if there was really this is something that was important. Then depends upon um, what your constitution is,
Mm-hmm.
but you can drink something, some liquid hot, or take a hot shower
Mm-hmm.
because of the relaxation, etc., like that. So have a hot drink, warms the insides. Um, Warm milk is often done, or warm milk with turmeric
Mm-hmm.
is something that, with the turmeric spread on the top. This is an old Ayurvedic remedy. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the important stuff that I want to get to is not the physical rituals,
Mm-hmm. It's
but the
mental.
mental ritual.
Right, like nothing to do. I don't kind of do anything. Just relax and enjoy that sensation
Exactly.
of the bed. Right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So let's go over that. Why? Because most people lay down with the thought something like, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll find the drag my look what time it is, and I've got to get up early in the morning, and so I actually stop the work that I'm doing. It may be on the computer. The guy's sitting at the computer at night. It's 11 or it's at 12 or it's 1 or whatever like that, and he's going to bed
Ah.
not because he thinks that it's a wise or a good thing to do. He's going because he recognizes he can no longer function in work, that the mind
Mm-hmm.
has gotten so tired, he's yawning, he's falling asleep, etc. And so he gets up and goes to bed under the law or under the rule, I've got to go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
because I've got to get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to sleep under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and not only
Oof.
that, but he didn't even finish what he wanted to finish. The student didn't finish the homework or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're going to bed under stress, and we got to get enough rest so that we can get up because I've got a really important thing to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a lot. I mean, how many millions of people go to bed like that?
Yeah,
Just
that's
in New York.
yeah. It's terrible. Yes, exactly. That's exactly
All
right.
right,
Mm-hmm. And it's so
and
ironic.
so
I can't sleep. Yeah.
So there's a much better way to do it because that spinning mind that was spinning right before he got into bed continues to spin when he's in bed, but we've got the extra boot on. I've got to relax. And so he even puts himself under pressure to relax. That
Mm-hmm.
is so
How can
weird.
you relax? Yeah, exactly. I see.
Yeah, I must relax as opposed to actually doing it. In fact, I think in the 1970s there was a book in psychology that was written, and the title was a joke, and the joke was "You must relax," as if you can order somebody or yourself to actually do it because it's a good idea rather than just relaxing. Okay, so now that we're looking for these little Dhammarato moments of just complete everything is just absolutely perfect right now, that also can be generated in bed when we lay there with the idea, oh, this is so nice, no place to go
Mm-hmm.
and nothing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I can lay here, and when my mind drifts away into thoughts or into the cloud that's going to become a dream, I can bring it back and just lay here and be with the body and be with the moment and enjoy this, saying, I can lay here for the next 8 hours. There's nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't this so nice?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I see.
and then it will then the body will drift off into the sleep, and the sleep will be deep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there is a startle noise in the night
Mm-hmm.
and someone is sleeping deeply, but that they have been doing a lot of dreaming in the night, then that loud noise may bring them out of their deep sleep into the dream state. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll just incorporate that loud noise into their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why people are really hard to wake up, especially when they're drunk. It's because they're really, really dreaming big time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like that. But there's very little consciousness in it. And so when people wake up, out of a dream that they're having. Let's say someone is already in a dream state, and then they're woke up for something, and they got to get up. Then they call that a very lucid dream
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's still fresh. That mostly we don't remember the dreams,
Mm-hmm.
but there can come a time when people will recognize, yes, you know, dreams are very infrequent, and when I have one, I know it. All
Mm-hmm.
right, that eventually will happen.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not saying that we're going to put an end to dreams. We're going to say
Mm-hmm.
that we begin to recognize that there are fewer and fewer of them,
Mm-hmm.
and so then when we are in the going into a very, very easy sleep
Mm-hmm.
because of the little nirvana and everything is wonderful right now. And we can forget all of the thoughts and we, in fact, erase them intentionally. I don't really want to think about anything while I'm laying here in bed except just laying here in bed and loving
Mm-hmm.
it.
I see. Right.
All right.
I see.
There, by the way, was a movie that was done by Mel Brooks years ago. Leslie Nielsen was the actor playing Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a comedy, including the comedy of him dancing with a beautiful woman, and then they dance into the room that's got a big mirror, and everybody goes nuts because the girl's dancing along, and all of that kind of stuff. The name of that movie is Dead and Loving It. And that is so Dhamma. That
Yeah,
is
that
so
is
Dhamma. Dead and loving it.
right. Right. You're
And
not.
so,
Yeah. Go ahead.
so that's the way that we want to approach going to bed at night. Is
Mm-hmm.
just dead, okay? Just and loving it. Just
Unplugged.
nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, unburdened completely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and going to sleep like that, then if something startle or something happens, even needing to go to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
then you can wake up easily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Okay, wake up easily because we don't have to go through some sort of dream state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, an example of that is when teenage boys are in camp with each other. If you can catch another kid dreaming, the thing to do is get some warm water and put his hands into that warm water. You know why? You
Why?
make him pee on himself
Oh.
because he's dreaming. If you
Ah.
do that with someone who's really asleep, it doesn't work.
It doesn't
But if
work. Oh.
somebody is dreaming, and you can see it, I mean, you can see dogs dreaming. You can watch them do it.
But they're twitching and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The dogs will run, they'll woof, they'll bark. Well, humans do that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Right.
here's the thing: is that if we're sleeping in an unusual setting, a place that's
It's
unknown
hard
to
to sleep.
us,
It's awake. Like you're actually like a lot more awake, and it becomes a lot harder to sleep because the mind is like, I guess maybe it thinks it's not safe yet. So there's a part of it that's like watching.
you got it exactly.
Uh huh.
A strange place. We need to have a safe place. That's the whole concept of the nesting instinct, is that we need to have a safe place so
Mm-hmm.
we can go deeply into sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing that's really kind of unusual and important, and that is that almost all of the dream research for many, many years was done by having a patient go into a hospital-like setting and sleep there so that they could put the equipment on them, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that they were bastardizing their own
Oh.
data.
Oh wow. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because it's like unfamiliar. Oh, didn't think about that. Oh, that's right.
Exactly so. But when people can sleep as in a way that they know how they can sleep and sleep deeply, then they're going to be able to put those, even though the equipment is going to do a little bit of bad data collection because they're different. But
Mm.
it's going to be much better if you can do this night after night after night in the
Mm-hmm.
person's home. The only
Mm-hmm.
way to do that is bring the price of that equipment down. And guess what? It's down to $100 now.
Mm-hmm.
You can put applications on cell phones and cook this thing into the USB, and the machine itself is cheap, cheap, cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the more expensive ones are actually skull caps, but the really
Whoa.
cheap ones are nothing but finger devices. Very
Mm-hmm.
much like blood pressures and that kind of stuff can be registered that way. But it's amazing that what data you can collect about the human body while it's sleeping over the
Mm.
course of sleep. You can actually
And how?
watch on
Mm-hmm.
and watch those rates and heart rates and blood pressures and all of that, and you can see
Mm-hmm.
what dream state that they're in
Mm-hmm.
or not, or whether it's sleep. So knowing that makes it
Mm-hmm.
even more important for you to every night make sure that you get yourself to the right state for
Mm-hmm.
sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, anapanasati is to be done in all four postures. And the Buddha also is a champion of wakefulness.
Mm-hmm.
And what he means by that is that you want to sleep on your side. You want to be able to get the sleep you need, but you want to be able to wake up really easy. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the procedure of why in dojos
Mm-hmm.
or mostly in Japan, but it's also practiced by those who know it. Like, for instance, I think in the Navy SEALs,
Mm-hmm.
that they will give the guys a really, really hard day and then let
Mm-hmm.
them really get to sleep. And then at 3 a.m. in the morning, he comes hanging and bang, 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 get up, get up, get up, get
Oh,
up, you know, like
really?
that.
Oh.
Okay. But that's completely different than the way that they do it in Japan, and the way that they do it in Japan with the Zen stick,
Mm-hmm.
and the instructor sneaks in
Mm-hmm.
to hit the sleeper, and the
Mm-hmm.
ones that they hit are the ones they can tell are dreaming.
Oh, because if you were kind of like, actually kind of aware, you would catch the guy sleep like sneaking in.
Right, even at a deep sleep, that guy sneaking in, you're going to know it, and you're going to get it, and you're going to get up, and you're going to greet him, "Hi, teacher." You're
Wow,
not. All
that's
right, so that.
amazing.
All right. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how this whole idea works is to be able to sleep, but when real danger comes, you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. So, but that's in Japan. That's Bushido. That's the way of the warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But with monks, the monks sleep out in the open air, open sky. Sometimes it's dangerous. Sometimes you've
Mm-hmm.
got snakes or things will sneak up, and you need to wake up and take care of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gotcha.
in the early days, monks did sleep out in the open, but as time progressed, they were able to get little huts. They could
Mm-hmm.
get people to build them for them, and so sometimes there were large salas that were built, and then there would be guys who would put kutis around that sala area.
Mm-hmm. So this can be trained. Yeah, I should. I mean, right now I'm already doing like the got nothing, just enjoy the bed, right? But yeah, I should totally keep training this. This is important. Yeah, it's
Uh
pretty
huh.
important. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is the way for you to start as a layman.
Mm-hmm.
Is to go to learn how to go to sleep in
Mm-hmm.
Nibbana.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Don't be on fire. Don't be smoking. You
Mm-hmm.
always keep coming back to the moment. So it's really important to be here now as you're going to sleep. You'll get good night's sleep. You won't take so much time to sleep. You'll wake up more refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
And that in fact, problems that may have been dreamt their way into a solution may in fact be there after you wake up. So it goes bang like that.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
Okay, because the
Gotcha.
mind was, instead of smoldering all night trying to solve a problem, it was refreshed so that when it's reapproached,
Mm-hmm.
the answer is there.
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah, I have to
Okay,
keep doing this. It's working. Yeah.
so an example of that is that if you've got an email to write,
Mm-hmm.
don't lay in bed thinking about that email.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't write that email until you're at the keyboard writing that email.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes
Because
sense.
if you have an idea, if you're sitting, first off, if you're thinking about writing that email while you're laying in bed, first off, you're not productive. Second
Mm-hmm.
off, you'll have a good idea and you'll say, oh, now I have to remember that. So now
Mm-hmm.
you're
Yep.
putting rules and regulations and stuff that you got to do's and all of that kind of stuff, and here comes all that suffering. No, the best thing to do is to get away from email writing while we're laying in bed.
Gotcha. I see. Okay. Yeah, in fact, that's like a good segue, like into like I guess like work, right? Because like again, like I look for like a dukkha, right? And of course, there's like lots of dukkha, right? Because the thing is, right? I mean, I'm stuck here, right? So this cycle of like this work is terrible, and it's gonna sound real funny to you because what I'm thinking about now is the work experience that I'm getting now is pretty much obsolete. It's pretty bad for a lot of the newer tech companies, right? And so I'm thinking about yes, after I get these are things that lead to dukkha, right? I'm waiting for a promotion, right? And then as soon as I get the promotion, I was thinking I resign and I just come back. I study full time for like a couple months to prepare for technical interviews and actually get like a job at like a more I guess up to date company, right? But this entire thing is dukkha, right? This sounds so silly because you're giving up another job for another job. You're untying some chains to get some more chains, and this whole thing like to me is dukkha, right?
You're
Um,
right.
you-
You're right.
right, and right, and then like
Exactly.
exactly, and to me, I was like, but it seems to me that
The question is, how can you enjoy yourself while
Mhm.
you pretend to be chained to a desk?
Right. I mean, it's also that like I'm also seeing right a lot of things are also uh, um a lot of things are also dukkha. Even family is dukkha, right? Because like even if I'm also like I don't I don't really care like what I eat or right whatever, right? Part of my paycheck is going to maintaining the rent or the whatever, right? And so that in itself is also a cause of dukkha. I feel like as long as I am in this city, as long as I'm here playing this game, I will. This is basically like a chain. Like this is a chain. There's no other way to say it. It doesn't matter if the chain is silver or gold. A chain is a chain, right? Like
Hmm. Yes,
yeah.
that's in fact an old story
Mm-hmm.
called "The Bird in the Gilded Cage." Does it matter that the cage is gilded? You know what a gilded cage is? It's either plated gold or solid gold, right?
Right.
Does it matter if the cage is gilded or not? No.
It's terrible. This is terrible because like it's so I don't know what to do about this. I mean, like yeah, it sucks. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. That when we recognize
Mm-hmm.
that most of the work that we do in the modern society is a lot of spinning of wheels, of making something and destroying it. In fact, one of the tasks that they give in the army in training recruits, or at least they used to do this in World War One, is have the young men, 18 or whatever, in their new uniforms to dig a trench.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and after they get the trench dug deep enough or what enough till they really start to complain and they're grumbling with each other, then the lieutenant comes back and says, "Okay, fill it in,"
Yeah,
to
right.
show
Because I
that
feel like
all of the work that they've done is now all the work that they're grumbling about doing was
mhm.
for naught, and now they've got a whole job of filling it back in.
Yeah, because I feel like at some point I asked myself like, what is the whole point of all this? What am I like? What is the point here? Like sometimes I think about this, right? And I was speaking to some of my friends today. I was like, what is the whole point of all this? And one of them was like, oh, you just want to do it and also like enjoy doing it. But I mean I didn't argue, but my reaction was yeah, but you can't enjoy things like this. Like the things you get you don't really get, like like they don't last, right? So you're not really I don't think there's anything that can be really enjoyed from all this, right? Like as long as you have some. So I really don't know what to make of this honestly because I